Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video. And in this video, we are going to be covering a massive amount of class changes moving into patch 9.2.5. It would appear that Blizzard was holding out on us, and it was looking maybe potentially grim here for both PvE and PvP in terms of seeing any sort of significant change for this patch. This is the patch that is going to be seeing cross-faction play, to where you will now be able to play with your friends, whether you're Alliance or Horde together. This is going to increase the overall player pool, and I think is an excellent change for the current state of the game, as well as a wide variety of changes that have come in for classes in this patch, being PvE and PvP. So we're going to be covering them, talking about it, seeing what are going to be the ramifications of this, what's it going to mean for you, any sort of like re-rolling opportunities or composition changes, and all of that of the like. So starting off right off the bat, they're making a massive change to tanks for PvE. All classes now generate more threat when in the tank specialization. And what I really like about this round of updates is that they included developer notes and talked about their thought process for all of these given changes, which is getting some really good insight on the reasoning why. So for this one, we've heard a lot of feedback about threat loss from the community and our teammates since the start of this season. Our design intent is that a tank who is actively directing their damage rotation at an enemy should be able to maintain threat on that enemy, but simple area of effect spells like Consecrate or Death and Decay alone should not be significant. We've analyzed the situation and feel that a small adjustment to tank threat modifiers should help maintain that balance for the remainder of the expansion. So some assistance over into Mythic Plus. Beast Mastery Hunters are receiving a 4% damage buff to their abilities and their pets by 4%, and this is going to be in PvP as well because there is no note saying otherwise, as well as Beast Cleave now causes your pet to strike other targets for 100% of your pet's damage, up from 90%, so a little bit of AoE. This is going to be impacting PvE, I think, a little bit more than PvP, although the 4% will definitely be felt. Their developer notes reading, Beast Mastery has not received as much AoE benefit from its set bonus as other specializations, and consequently has fallen behind. We're increasing the damage of their pets and Beast Cleave damage transfer to help their overall performance. We'll have to wait and see if that changes anything with the given Mythic Plus meta, as I'm not 100% up to date to it, but there's some ramifications for PvP certainly. Arcane Mage is receiving some significant buffs overall, with Arcane Missiles damage being increased by 8%, Arcane Blast damage being increased by 10%, and your clear casting no longer being dispellable. So this is going to be PvE and PvP. Arcane has really not seen any sort of specific love. This may be the patch to try and give it a go before Shadowlands has finally run its course. I know there's been a lot of meme builds with the Arcane Orb at the moment. I've seen Mitch Jones go bowling with that a few times in PvP. Will this change you in PvE? I don't know, competing with the AoE damage from a lot of the set bonuses of other specs of things like Destruction Warlock, I'm not 100% sure that this will be enough, especially because it's not AoE spells, but in PvP, this should be felt. Their developer notes read, we feel that Arcane single target damage would benefit from an increase, but also want to offer some Dispel protection for one of their critical rotational buffs in clear casting. This is a change that we will evaluate further going into Dragonflight, as generally we want magical buffs like these to be dispellable. In this case, we feel it is necessary to help the specialization in the short term. I really like that they included moving into the future that they are going to be willing to look back at this rather than a change that has happened in an expansion two expansions ago that is actually not really relevant currently to the game. And we'll see more changes like that further down the list, and this is important for kind of actively changing the game based on how it currently is, and being aware of changes that have been made in the past. So I really like this as far as direction of the game. Frost Mage, they're going to be reducing the duration of Gift of the Lich Conduit in PvP by 33%. Developers notes, Deathborn is one of the most impactful cooldowns in the game, but at the current scale of conduits, it's regularly lasting 50 plus seconds. We feel it's necessary to rein in that duration in PvP. To my understanding, after reading some math that was done from some other players, not 100% on it, this still means that Deathborn might be 40 seconds of duration, which is still very significant. So will this have a huge changing sweep to Frost Mage? I'm thinking it's probably unlikely. Now moving on to Mistweaver. Mistweaver, you're finally getting a little bit of love here. Your Zen Focus T, which is your immunity to interrupts, is going to be reduced on its cooldown by 15 seconds. You'll be able to do it every 30 seconds. And their developer notes read, as Mistweavers are having a difficult time responding to burst damage reliably, as they regularly have to open their primary school in order to catch up. Giving them more access to an interrupt protection is intended to let them respond to burst damage more reliably. So you're not going to have to deal with those high pressure situations and also an interrupt on top of it, which should allow you to pump out the massive heals that Mistweaver is capable of it more regularly. Windwalker, I gotta sneeze here. Windwalker is receiving massive buffs, but this is only in PvE and not applying to PvP. Rising Sun Kick increased by 20%, Fist of Fury 20%, Blackout Kick 20%, Tiger Palm 20%, Fist of the White Tiger 20%. I did not know monks were performing this terribly to need that much of a buff across their entire class. But their notes read as part of our ongoing balance efforts, we're taking a more aggressive approach towards improving Windwalker's single target damage so that their performance is more competitive in raid situations where their unique strengths may not come to the forefront. I would imagine this has huge implications for Mythic Plus if Windwalker wasn't already a top Mythic Plus DPS. This is, I would say, going to definitely solidify that position. Discipline Priest is going to be receiving some buffs. Really like these buffs to the other healers than Holy Priest, especially focusing on this one for Discipline. Blaze of Light, which is an honor talent, is going to increase the damage of Smite and Penance by 30%, so being doubled from 15%. And this could have really fun synergies with the Machine Gun Penance build that I was testing out on the PTR prior to this patch and was really excited to play, but ended up kind of falling over in a flop. So potentially that's going to be something that I want to revisit on my Priest, or you may want to look to visit on your Priest, because Discipline is easily one of the most fun specializations in the game, especially as a healer. It's going to get you groups as well. They're going to see buffs to their power word shield absorption by 10%, which I would imagine is affecting Rapture as well. And they fixed a bug that reduced the value of power word shield critical strikes in PvP, so potentially even more shielding from those effects, and may increase some viability with the power word shield legendary that reflective shields that reflex damage. So interesting to see if Discipline will actually be able to pump out enough damage to outdo Holy. It still doesn't bring the other strengths with immunity cooldowns like Ray of Hope, Guardian Spirit, as well as Chastise being such a powerful long-range stun. Their developer notes for Discipline read as, we're looking to give Discipline more offensive options in PvP, but also feel that Power Word Shield has fallen off in terms of relative strength compared to other parts of the kit. For Rogue, we are seeing nerfs specifically targeted at their defensives and towards Outlaw. So Recuperator, the conduit, healing has been reduced by 50% in PvP, which was scaling. If we look at Enduring Brawler for Outlaw, was when you had a massive amount of stamina, the healing on the Recuperator was also providing a lot of passive sustainability. And that sustainability is going to be going down. In PvE, Outlaw is also getting buffs. Between the Eyes, damage increased by 20%. Pistol Shot damage increased by 20%. Sinister Strike damage increased by 20%. And Blade Flurry damage increased to 60% of the single target damage, up from 50%. But none of these will apply in PvP. So basically just the self-healing of Outlaw in PvP is going to be going down. Their max stamina going down. But honestly, it's a pretty light nerf on top of how tanky they are outside of this. But I do think targeting the passive talents that are just lowering interactivity with the rogue's own awareness to surviving incoming damage is a good direction. But the developer notes read, our intent with these changes is to improve Outlaw in both single target and 5 to 6 target cleave situations where Blade Flurry should shine. Outlaw isn't standing out enough in these moments, and we hope these changes move us in the right direction. However, in PvP, Enduring Brawler and Recuperator have given Outlaw more survivability than intended, and we've decided to reduce the max stack count as a result. This will affect Recuperator for other specs if you were running it as well. But honestly, I think Outlaw got off light with these nerfs, and I'm not sure if it will be too much for them to the point where you're going to be dropping Outlaw as the main spec right now for Rogue. Shaman, we see big buffs towards Restoration Shaman and some nerfs to Elemental and Enhancement. Restoration Shaman Healing Stream Totem, I guess this is Healing Stream Totem actually for all Shamans, is going to be increased by 20% in PvP, so you're going to get some survivability buffs at least. Elemental, the Vesper Totem, seems like it's going to be going back into Pandora's box as its damage is being reduced by 33%. However, Earthshock is going to be getting a 10% buff. This will likely lead Elemental Shamans to playing Necrolord exclusively in PvP, and these are specifically PvP changes. Enhancement Shaman, Chain Harvest damage and healing has been reduced by 15% in PvP, which I think makes sense considering the spell was effectively an enemy instant one-shot and an ally lay on hands. I think targeting this makes a lot of sense, although will it be enough at 15% with how much it was doing? We will have to wait and see. Might mean that Enhancement Shamans shift over from focusing on Chain Harvest legendaries to focusing on maybe Doom Winds again, or the Wolf Bones legendary for more elemental blast damage, but we'll have to wait and see. Restoration Shamans, this is another point that I was making out, is Earthen Wall Totem was nerfed in Legion, I believe, by 30% in PvP. And so now this nerf that was applied to it retroactively is no longer going to be applied. So 20% healing stream healing and Earthen Wall Totem should feel like more of a relevant cooldown, especially with how high burst damage is. And this should be a big quality of life change for Restoration Shamans. And there's a really big buff to Shamans at the end of this video as well. Developer notes for Shaman, We want to address some of the big swing moments created by Vesper Totem and Chain Harvest, but compensate them with more sustained healing, damage, and mitigation. For Restoration Shaman, you're getting the main benefit of that, but I'm not sure if the Healing Stream Totem is going to help Elemental specifically surviving against things like Death Knight, which didn't receive any nerfs towards its damage, or Fury Warriors, these melee cleaves that really make it tough for Elemental Shamans to get a lot going. So maybe would have liked to seen more compensation there towards Elemental. Destruction Warlock, remember you're getting an armor nerf. Seems like a bit of an odd direction on top of these nerfs to make Warlock even more powerful into things that couldn't kill it and then make it more fragile into the stuff that was already having an easy time with it. Seemed like a bit of an odd direction for this patch. Warlock is probably just going to be a counter pick class now rather than kind of like a standalone solid pick. So they are targeting the Ritual of Rune. It's now only going to last 30 seconds before you can blast out that double Chaos Bolt. 30 seconds is still a pretty substantial amount of time. And the Blasphemy is now no longer going to stun enemies in PvP, so you don't have to worry about getting hit for 60,000 Chaos Bolt damage and getting stunned, which makes a lot of sense. A very interesting change in buff for Demonology, though, is that Felguard's Legion Strike now reduces effectiveness of healing on the target by 25%, up from 10%, meaning that it is the only caster with a sustained Mortal Strike effect, which could have some interesting synergies with maybe things like Balance Druids and 3v3 and potentially opening up some different compositions. It's definitely intrigued me to try and give Demonology a go again because I actually really enjoyed it when I tried it out at the start of this patch. Developer notes, with these changes, we've set out to address the strategy of disengaging from the fight, except in rare moments where the Warlock can set up huge burst through the set bonus. At the same time, we're trying to give adequate time for the Warlock to respond to Ritual of Rune proc with a 30-second duration. It really depends on if this means that this buff is refreshed as it stacks, or if it's just flat 30, you need to get to that stack before the 30 runs out. That is actually a big difference. That will make it whether or not it's going to be hard to pull it off or not, and I'm not 100% sure on that, so we'll have to wait and see. Also, we've increased the Mortal Strike effect of Demonology's pet in PvP to help their effective damage. Also gives you a bit more comp synergy, being a Mortal Strike effect class now. Arms Warriors, you're getting some buffs. You weren't left, left under the Harry Potter staircase or something for the rest of the expansion. Mortal Strike damage has been increased by 10%. Overpower damage increased by 10%. But this does not apply in PvP. Interesting enough. So I thought the first time I read this, I thought those were applied in PvP, but those are directly for PvE. However, your Execute and Condemn damage is going to be increased by 15%. Which also doesn't apply in PvP. So I was actually, I swear the first time I read this, that these changes were going to apply in PvP, but I guess I was incorrect. I'm sorry about that, Arms Warriors. You may still be left under Harry Potter staircase. My apologies. Fury Warrior is going to be receiving some nerfs as well as quality of life improvements. Your Depths of Insanity Conduit effectiveness has been reduced by 50% in PvP, which means your Recklessness duration won't be as long. Similarly to the Frost Mage changes, seems like they're keeping that in line with itself. Battle Trance will now actually interact with Raging Blow and Crushing Blow, so you'll be able to keep it up the entire fight, which is a big buff to your survivability, but it's only going to generate 3 rage down from 5 now, which could be a significant dent in your overall damage, as well as keeping up your slaughterhouse. Developers notes, 9.2.5 comes with a bug fix where the PvP talent Battle Trance wasn't being activated by the Raging Blow replacement spell Crushing Blow from the Reckless Abandoned talent. The above changes are intended to manage the effective buff Fury will be getting from that interaction. And finally, changes to the trinkets, which I was not expecting to have happen. I thought the trinkets were going to be left the way that they are. But Gladiator's Distinction PvP set bonus stamina is being increased to 500 from 350. This is an extra 1500 HP. Really big deal for matches. If you can survive these burst damage moments, it's likely that games could start to pull deeper into dampening as a result of this stamina increase. And they do want to focus on increasing survivability in PvP at the moment. Cosmic Gladiator's Echoing Resolve is now no longer going to trigger from or provide immunities to interrupt effects, which was the main kind of dig resto shamans or shamans in general were having with their Wind Shear being their main tool to deal with casters. So potentially Destruction Warlock taken off the face of the earth with these two interactions coming in at the same time. They will be very powerful into double casters, but if there is any sort of whiff of melee DPS, it is going to be a rough ride, I think, for you in patch 9.2.5. But that is it for the changes. Let me know in the comments down below if you are going to be picking up anything different here, having seen these changes now or returning to patch 9.2.5 to give it a run. I do like that there was a more comprehensive list of changes after the fact, although I think there was a few other things I would have liked to have seen adjusted, which I talked about in my video I made previously, which I'll have linked here in just a second if you'd like to see those changes that I would like to see to the game. But other than that, they targeted a lot of key things that are powerful. We could see some meta shifts. I think Warlock potentially falling off is a big one, and Vesper Totem no longer being a viable option. So we'll have to wait and see, but I am excited to try out the patch, excited to try some cross-faction. I might be going Kultiran on my Boomkin. I want to try some knockbacks. I've really wanted to try that for a while and I couldn't. So I may be doing that. And other than that, thank you very much for watching the video. I will catch you in the next one.